Question is, we live in a no evacuation zone, and our home was built in 2003 with hurricane clips, etc. However, we do not have impact windows and are not able to put up plywood. How safe are we?
I would have to start with where are they at. Since this is being emailed in, I don't know if they're in an evacuation zone or not. So we'll just
they're saying they're not in an evacuation zone.
They're not in an evacuation zone.
They're noted.
So I mean, again, I think we're always going to be a fan of harden your home, do the things that you can do. I would say to that particular viewer that's watching right now, if you need help putting up board or plywood on your home, there are volunteer organizations just about in every single city and county that will help do those things ahead of a storm. We've got some very, very innovative programs across the state of Florida. If it's a cost issue, depending on the age and all that, I'd send them to my Safe Florida Home. That is actually, again, at the Chief Financial Officer, Jimmy Petronis' website. There are a lot of people that have applied for that, but you can get money and a grant to actually harden your windows, put shutters up, do some things to your roof. So again, that's a very little known government function that we do. And again, My Safe Florida Homes would be a really good place to go for that. And I'm going to assume since it was email, it's probably outside of our network, unless you got something else, Mary.
Yeah, no, I would say there's a lot of nonprofit organizations and then faith-based organizations. We meet with those faith-based organizations, nonprofits, to talk about what resources they can bring in times of disaster. And a lot of those organizations will rally their members and do a lot of this pre-storm activities for individuals that maybe can't physically do put on their shutters. So, use your community resources, but you have to do that now. You can't do that 24, 48 hours before we expect to have a storm impact us. It's too late. So people need to work on those types of resources today before there's a storm out there.
Yeah, the bottom line is that in a home without hurricane protection on it is not safe in a strong hurricane. In a lower grade hurricane, if you're not near the windows and you have a interior hallway or closet or something like that, you'll probably be okay. But if things start really blowing around and break the window and the wind comes in, your roof is vulnerable and your home is vulnerable. So, I mean, in Florida, we need hurricane protection on every building.
I have a quick question. When would you guys recommend putting the shutters up? When is a good time? Like a warning or a watch?
Well, it really depends on the size of the storm and it depends on the kind of shutters. So if you're talking about panel shutters, people have died putting in panel shutters because if the wind is blowing, they're really hard to maneuver and they, kind of come down and they can cut you and so forth. So if you're talking about those kind of shutters, which, many people still have, but fewer people have now because we have impact windows.
I still have them.
Yeah, right. Right. Lots of people do. And I did as well when I had my last home. But those you got to put up before the wind is blowing. So I used to say on television, okay, folks, here's the thing. We don't know the storm is coming, but tomorrow morning it's going to be kind of breezy here. So if you're going to do this, I would do this before the sun goes down tonight. Because it may be just too windy and too dangerous to do it tomorrow morning, and this is something that there's a reasonable chance we're going to have to do. So you have to kind of look at it that way, right? You don't want to be doing that in the dark, and you don't want to be doing it when it's windy. So quite often you need to do it earlier, and I don't know if that's part of your instructions to the community? Do you do that, or is that left to the weather folks?
I mean, we leave that decision to the homeowner. A traditional rule of thumb is 48 hours, right, with a watch. That's kind of the traditional rule of thumb. But it all depends on, and Kevin has mentioned, knowing your home. How long does it take you? I have a lot of windows on my home, and I have the panels. And I will tell you, I live on a dead end. But I can tell you a lot of my friends and family drive by when I'm at work and there's a storm coming because their guide is when they see my husband putting up the shutters, they're all starting. So whatever your comfort level is, whenever you feel comfortable, but we know that there's a lot of homeowners associations as well that have very strict rules. So, you need to understand those homeowners associations, but it's your home, your life, your property. So whatever you feel comfortable with, and whenever you're ready to put those shutters on safely, we would encourage you to do so. But don't do it too early, because then you're blocking a window that could be your escape route should you have any type of an incident in your home, like a fire. So, but the standard rule of thumb, when people ask us that, is 48 hours. I don't know if Kevin.
No, I firmly agree that, you know, when the watches go up, that's usually when I was in Flagler or Pasco County, that's when we would do that. I obviously don't get that direction anymore at the state level, but the one thing that I mentioned while Mary was talking was make sure you practice that. You know, that's not a skill that you use every day. You may use it once every 10 or 20 years. So you may want to just pull a panel or two out and say, okay, remind yourself how all of that goes together, just to familiarize yourself with it. Because when the disaster is happening is not the time to try to figure out where were the screws at and where were this at, and does it latch this way, does it latch that way. You want to that's a part of your preparedness plan. You need to practice those things. And I'm not saying board up the entire, you know, all of Mary's house, but you know, you may need to practice a window or two just to make sure you know how to do that.